Hi, everyone, welcome back to Betrayed. I opened the front door and froze. She was standing there in the driveway, my wife, Emily, wearing tight jeans she hadn't worn in months and a smug smile that didn't belong in a marriage. But that wasn't the part that made my stomach turn. Behind her, leaning against a brand new black Escalade like he owned the world, stood a man I'd never seen before. Tall, tan, with hair too perfect to be real. One arm casually wrapped around two boys who looked just old enough to understand what betrayal meant. And just behind them, my son Noah was standing in the doorway, holding onto the frame with wide, confused eyes. Emily didn't even wait for me to say anything. She tossed her long, bleach blonde hair over her shoulder and said, "Mark, meet Jason and his boys. They'll be staying here for a while. I think it's time we stop pretending." I laughed, not the funny kind. It was the broken, sharp, empty kind of laugh that comes from a place deep inside. Pretending what, exactly? She walked right past me, without flinching. Jason followed her, the kids dragging suitcases like they had already moved in. "You and I," she said, dropping her purse on the couch. "We've been over for a long time. You just refuse to admit it." Noah stepped beside me, his hand shaking as he grabbed my arm. "Dad, why is he here?" Emily glanced back, still smiling smugly. "Because he's the one keeping me warm now." That sentence didn't just hurt, it set something off inside me. I should have seen the signs. The late nights, the sudden obsession with the gym, the new lingerie with the tags still on. Never meant for me. The way she'd smirk at her phone like it was telling her secrets meant only for her. But I was foolish. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. That if I kept being steady, the provider, the protector, she'd come back. Turns out, someone else was already holding her while I was in the next room, trying to keep our marriage together like duct tape on a sinking ship. "Jason's boys are nice," she added with a fake smile. "Maybe they'll help Noah be less sensitive." That was it. That's when something inside me broke. But before I could speak, or even breathe, Noah stepped forward. My 12-year-old son, with eyes just like mine but stronger in that moment than I'd ever been. He pointed straight at Emily and said, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, "You're not my mom anymore." She blinked, caught off guard for the first time since stepping out of that SUV. "I saw your messages," he continued, voice trembling but growing stronger. "You told Jason you wanted to get rid of me because I remind you of Dad. You called me a burden." Jason shifted uncomfortably. Emily's face turned pale, then red, then twisted into something cruel. "You little brat," she snapped. "You had no right." "He had every right," I said, stepping forward. "While you were pretending to play house with some bargain bin Ken doll, he was watching everything fall apart, wondering why you didn't love us anymore." She looked at me like I was something beneath her shoe. "Oh, please don't make this dramatic. You were boring, Mark. Predictable. I needed a man who made me feel something again." "Feel something?" I asked, staring at the man who hadn't said a single word until now. "You mean this guy?" Jason finally stepped up, his voice smooth, like he'd rehearsed it in a mirror. "Look, man, it's not personal. Emily deserves to be happy." I almost laughed again, but my fists were too tight. "I hope she makes you as happy as she made me," I said coldly. "Because eventually, she'll turn on you too. She always does. And when she does, I'll be there laughing." Emily rolled her eyes and walked toward the kitchen. "Whatever. You'll hear from my lawyer. I'm done talking." But she wasn't done, not even close. And neither was I. Because I had one final move. Something she never saw coming. It started with a file I'd hidden in the bedroom drawer. One that held every secret she thought she had buried. I walked down the hall to our bedroom. No, my bedroom now, and opened the top drawer of the nightstand. Beneath a pile of old birthday cards and tangled charger cables was the manila folder I'd been quietly building for 3 months. I never wanted to believe I'd need it. I hoped I was wrong. But I wasn't. Screenshots. Bank statements. A hotel receipt from the weekend. I was out of town visiting my mother in Michigan. Emily had said she was sick. Turns out Emily was getting cozy at the Hilton with Jason. Even a few printed Instagram messages Jason had sent to one of Emily's friends, bragging about stealing her from her loser husband. I had the proof. All of it. I walked back into the living room. Jason was lounging on my couch like he paid the bills, flipping through channels. His kids were raiding Noah's snacks in the kitchen like they owned the place. Noah sat stiffly at the edge of the stairs, still in shock, still quiet, but burning. I could see it in his eyes. Emily noticed the folder in my hands and rolled her eyes. "What? You printing memes now?" "Something like that," I said. She snatched it from me, opened it, and her smirk vanished in under a second. "You've been spying on me," she shouted. "No," I replied calmly. "I was gathering proof. There's a difference. And now, I've got enough to make sure you walk away with nothing, except your bargain boyfriend and his snack thief kids." She threw the folder onto the table, papers flying everywhere. Jason stood up. "Hey, look, man," he said, trying to sound calm. "Maybe we should talk about this somewhere else." "No," I snapped. "You walked into my home, brought your mess into my family, made it public. So, let's keep it public." Emily's voice turned sharp and bitter. "You have no idea what I've been through. You were never there for me, emotionally. I felt empty inside while you were out there fixing stuff around the house, playing the perfect little helper, and I was dying inside." "You weren't dying," I shot back. "You were wandering. There's a difference." And then, of all people, Jason reached out and tried to put a hand on my shoulder. "You need to calm down, bro." The way he said bro lit a fire in me I didn't know I had. I slapped his hand away and stepped right into his face. "Say that again. See how calm I stay." He backed off quickly. Emily, now clearly shaken, went for the only weapon she had left. "You think a judge will take your side when you're out here threatening people in front of your kid?" "I'm not threatening," I said. "I'm finished." "That's different too." And right in the middle of the chaos, Noah spoke again. "Can I stay with you, Dad?" he asked, his voice small but genuine. Emily spun around.
"What?"
"No, you're not picking sides. I already did," Noah said quietly. "The moment you brought them in here, we didn't matter." Jason's kids sensed the tension. One of them, maybe 9 years old, whispered something to him. Jason bent down and nodded. Meanwhile, Emily crossed a line that no court order could erase. She grabbed Noah by the arm. "You're confused. I'm your mother."
"You don't talk to me like that." I didn't yell.
I didn't raise my voice. I simply stepped forward and said, "Take your hands off my son." She froze. I'd never used that tone with her before. It was cold. Final. She let go. Jason let out a breath, like he was just realizing what kind of situation he'd walked into. "Maybe we should go," he muttered. "Maybe you should have thought of that before you walked into another man's house with your toy and a welcome mat," I snapped. Emily grabbed her bag. "This isn't over." "I know," I replied. "It's just beginning." As they walked out, Jason's younger kid looked back at Noah and gave a small wave. Noah didn't wave back. He just watched them drive away, like he was burning the moment into his memory forever. I closed the door, locked it. Then I turned to Noah. "I'm sorry," I said. "You didn't deserve any of this." He hugged me tightly, like he knew I was all he had now. And in that moment I realized I wasn't the one who lost everything.
She was.
And she didn't even know it yet. The next morning was quiet. Not peaceful, just the kind of silence that wraps around your neck and won't let go. The kind that comes after a storm, when everything's been thrown around, and you're left standing in the ruins, pretending it still feels like home. Noah didn't go to school. I didn't make him. We just sat at the kitchen table, sipping cocoa, like two survivors of the same shipwreck. He didn't ask about Emily. And I didn't either. But I knew the questions were tearing him apart, just like they were eating at me. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Your behavior last night was abusive. You're unstable. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll be picking up my belongings with police presence. Do not contact me again." I read it twice. Then I showed it to Noah. He stared at it, then whispered, "She really said you were abusive?" "Yeah," I said. After everything she did. Liar, he muttered. That one word stuck with me. Simple.
True.
She lied as easily as she breathed, naturally, constantly, without shame. But I wasn't going to sit around and let her twist the story into a victim act she could sell to her new boyfriend, to the court, or to her gossiping friends. I had the truth. I had documents, timestamps, messages. And I had Noah. That was enough. 2 days later, she showed up with 2 police officers. No warning, just knocked on the door like she hadn't torn our world apart, like she expected me to open it with a smile. She stood there with oversized sunglasses and a forced frown, clutching a tote bag like it held her pride. One of the officers asked, "Are you Mark Taylor?" I nodded. "Ma'am would like to retrieve personal belongings. Can we enter and supervise for a few minutes?" I looked at Emily. "You need bodyguards now?" She smiled faintly. "I'm protecting myself." "You should have done that before you climbed into Jason's car," I replied. The officer stepped between us. "Let's keep this respectful." I stepped aside. "By all means, let the guest of honor come collect her lies and lingerie." She walked in like she still owned the place. Went straight upstairs, never once glancing at the family photos on the wall. That hurt more than I expected. I thought maybe, just maybe, there'd be a flicker of regret. Some trace of the life we had. But she had already moved on. She had left long before this. While she was in the bedroom, I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. One of the officers stood awkwardly near the stairs. Then I heard her voice carry down, loud enough for us to hear. "Ugh, this place smells like failure. How did I live here this long?" I took a deep breath, held it in, and let it burn. She came downstairs with 2 bags, one stuffed with clothes and makeup, and the other with something that looked a lot like one of my watches. I pointed. "That's mine." "Please," she scoffed. "You never even wore it." "I will now." The officer looked at her and said, "Ma'am, if that item was purchased by him, you'll need to leave it here." She rolled her eyes, slipped it off her wrist, and tossed it onto the couch like it was something dirty. Then she looked at me and said, "Jason's already planning to propose." I just stared at her, silent. "I thought you should know so you can start moving on." I gave her a cold smile. "I already have." She blinked. That one hit. And just then, as if the universe wanted to make a point, Noah came downstairs holding something in his hand, a framed photo from his 5th birthday. He had frosting on his nose. Emily was kissing his cheek. I was holding them both. He walked up to her and handed her the picture. She looked confused. "What's this?" "Keep it," he said. "So, you remember what you threw away." Then he turned and walked outside. One of the officers cleared his throat. "That's everything, ma'am. We're done here." She didn't say another word, just walked out, holding the photo like it burned her fingers. I stood in the doorway and watched as they left the driveway. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't feel broken. I felt clear. The mask was off. The lies were exposed. And what I felt wasn't sadness anymore, it was strength. Because I wasn't the one hiding. And soon, everyone would know the truth. I had one move left, and this time I wasn't holding back. The day after she picked up her things, I filed for divorce. It was clean, direct. I handed my lawyer a full folder of evidence, texts, emails, timestamps, like a loaded weapon. He flipped through it, his eyebrows rising more than once. "You've got enough here to bury her in court." "Good," I said. "Let her dig." I didn't tell Emily. I let the papers do the talking. They were served at Jason's door, while she was inside playing house with him and his kids. I imagined she smiled through it, pretended it was just paperwork in front of them. But the timing wasn't random. I wanted Jason to see who she really was. A woman who turned her child into a pawn, her husband into a backup plan. The kind of woman who lies so often, she starts to believe her own stories. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Jason. He didn't say much, just a shaky, quiet voice. "Hey man, I think we should talk. Call me back when you can." I didn't call back. Instead, I took Noah fishing. We drove out to a lake just outside of town. No cell service. No distractions. Just the sound of water slapping against the shore and birds overhead. He didn't speak for nearly an hour. Then, while tying a lure, he looked up at me. Do you think she ever loved us? I didn't lie. I think she loved the version of us that was convenient for her. He nodded. I don't miss her. I don't either, I said. Not Emily now, but maybe the woman she used to be. The one who danced in the kitchen while the pancakes burned. The girl who cried when we brought you home. That version of her died somewhere between Jason's gym selfies and her sudden hatred of family dinners. When we got home, there were flowers on the porch. A cheap supermarket bouquet. Still in plastic. No card. Just silence wrapped in desperation. I tossed them straight into the trash. That night, my lawyer emailed me a recording. A private investigator I'd hired had found something, a video. Jason, out to dinner. With a woman who wasn't Emily. Same restaurant Emily used to love. Same smug attitude. The waitress confirmed it. He'd been coming there with the new woman for a month. Overlapping timelines. Karma works fast. But I didn't tell Emily. Not yet. Instead, I sent her a message. Your fairy tale is cracking. I'd stay close to home this week. She replied 10 minutes later. What the hell are you talking about? I left it on read. 2 nights later, there was a knock at my door. Late, around 11 p.m. Noah was already asleep. I opened it. There she was. No Jason. No makeup. Hoodie, leggings, hair in a messy bun, but not the cute kind. The kind that screams things are falling apart. Mark, she started, trying to sound calm. Can we talk? I stepped outside and closed the door behind me.
No.
She flinched. It's important.
What?
Jason dumped you already. Her lip twitched. That landed harder than she thought it would. I know you sent those papers. I got them, but maybe we rushed into this. I laughed in her face.
You rushed.
I watched. She took a shaky breath. He's not who I thought he was.
Shocker.
I made mistakes, okay? Big ones. I see that now. You made a choice, I said. Over and over again. She fell silent. I don't want Noah to hate me. Then you shouldn't have brought a stranger and his kids into his life like some circus act. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. That's your problem. You never think past the moment. And then, this part still burns, she placed a hand on my arm and softly said, maybe we could fix this. For Noah. For a moment, I just looked at her, really looked at her. Then I stepped back. I already did. I fixed everything the moment you left. I turned, opened the door, and closed it right in her face. She didn't knock again. But I knew it wasn't over. She wasn't done yet. And neither was I. 3 days went by without a word. No flowers. No calls. No fake apologies. Then Friday came. I pulled into the driveway after work and saw her car already parked there. Front wheels turned like she planned to stay. She was in the front yard, pacing, arms crossed, dressed to kill, tight black dress, heels too high for the grass, red lipstick bold enough to bleed. She looked more like she was headed to a nightclub than someone trying to fix a family. Noah was still at school. I had maybe 20 minutes before he got dropped off. I got out of the car and didn't say a word. She saw me and smiled like she'd practiced in the mirror. Mark, you look good. I walked past her toward the door. What do you want, Emily? She followed me up the steps like a stray dog in designer heels. I talked to Jason, she said casually, like we were suddenly friends again. We decided things aren't working out. Too different. The boys didn't get along. Tragic, I muttered, unlocking the door. She didn't wait to be invited in. Just slipped inside like the last few weeks hadn't even happened, and sat on the couch like she still belonged. I've been thinking, she started, smoothing out her dress, maybe I made a mistake. You did make a mistake, I said. A series of them. I wasn't myself, she replied, giving me that wide-eyed look that used to work, back when she crashed my car or maxed out the credit card. You know how lost I was. I needed attention. I needed to feel seen. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So you cheated.
Lied. Humiliated me.
Brought a stranger and his kids into our home to replace us. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. And then you accused me of abuse to cover your guilt. You filed first with a lawyer to make me look unstable. You told our son he reminded you too much of me. Need me to keep going? Her smile faded. I just want another chance, she said quietly.
Her voice trembled now.
Not for me, for Noah. He deserves a full family. I looked at her for a long time before answering. I've already filed for full custody. You'll have visitation, supervised, until Noah says otherwise. She stood up, fury flashing across her face. You can't do that. I already did. You want to fight it? Bring your folder. I'll bring mine. She narrowed her eyes. You think this makes you the better parent? No, I said. But sticking around through every lie, every breakdown, every cold shoulder, every time you locked the bedroom door for months, I think that makes me the better parent. You were cold. You were gone. We stood there, breathing hard, like two fighters in the 10th round, nothing left to give but hate. Then I heard the bus.
Noah.
I stepped out onto the porch just as he got off. His backpack half-zipped, hair messy from the wind. He saw her and froze. Mom? She smiled. Hey, baby. He didn't smile back. Why are you here? He asked. I came to talk to your dad, she said, trying to sound sweet. Just grown-up stuff.
He looked at me.
I gave him a small nod. He walked up the steps and stood next to me. Are you staying? He asked her. I was hoping to. No, he said calmly. You shouldn't. Her face cracked for just a moment. The fake mask slipped, and I saw it: fear, regret, a flash of something, but too late to matter. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. She walked back to her car, heels sinking into the lawn. Before opening the door, she turned back and said, He'll regret this one day. He'll ask why I left. But Noah answered before I could.
No.
I'll remember why. Then he turned and walked inside. I followed him, closing the door behind me. And for the first time in weeks, it felt like home again. Not perfect, not whole, but honest. And I'd take that over her version of love any day. The following week was quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of silence you know won't last, like pressure building under your skin. Then came Wednesday evening. I was just setting the table for dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, Noah's favorite, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. Mark Taylor, the voice asked. Yes. This is Officer Daniels with the County Sheriff's Department. We received a complaint filed against you. Harassment. Possible endangerment of a minor. I froze. What? The complaint was filed by Ms. Emily Taylor. You're listed as making verbal threats, engaging in emotionally abusive behavior, and denying her access to her child. I couldn't speak. My jaw clenched tight. We're not pressing charges at this time, he continued, but we will need a formal statement, preferably with your attorney. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I understand. I'll have my lawyer contact you. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Noah looked up from the table. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing. Just some paperwork I forgot about. I didn't tell Noah. Not yet. But inside, I was boiling. She wasn't done. She couldn't leave quietly. She couldn't accept that she had broken something beyond repair and lost the only people who ever truly cared about her. Now she was trying to make me the villain in her unraveling little drama. The same woman who walked out of our lives with another man was now trying to label me as a danger to my own son. After dinner, I called my lawyer. He wasn't surprised. She's cornered, he said. She's starting to realize she chose the wrong side. Now she's trying to claw back control. Then he added, the good news is you documented everything. Let her come. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, going over every memory, every lie she told, every time I brushed it off. I should have seen this version of her long ago.
But I didn't want to.
I wanted to believe she was better than that. That maybe she was just lost, not cruel. But she was both. And the worst part? She was still Noah's mother. That Thursday, she showed up at Noah's school. She wasn't allowed to. The divorce agreement clearly said, no contact without prior approval.
But she went anyway.
Waited for him outside, cornered him in the parking lot, and tried to convince him to come stay with her for a few days.
He said no.
She got angry. A teacher saw everything. By the time I got there, the principal had already called me and taken Noah to the office. Emily was gone, but the security footage caught enough for me to file a violation. That night, she sent me a text. You're turning my son against me. You'll regret this. He will too. I didn't reply. I just sent it to my lawyer. That weekend, I sat with Noah on the couch and told him the truth. Not every dirty detail, he was still too young, but enough. Your mom's going through something, I said gently. She's made choices I can't protect you from anymore. But I promise, I'll always keep you safe. No matter what she tries. He nodded. I know, Dad. I see it. Then he said something I'll never forget. I used to wish she'd come back. Now I hope she doesn't.
I didn't know what to say.
Part of me ached for him, but another part of me felt relief. He wasn't blind anymore. Neither of us were. That Sunday, I got a letter, her official response through her lawyer. She wanted joint custody. Equal time. Week on, week off. It was laughable.
But I didn't laugh.
Because I knew this wasn't about being a mother.
It was about control.
It was about punishing me for not letting her walk away without consequence. She thought I'd bend. She thought I'd break. But she forgot something. I don't lose to liars anymore. Not even the ones I once loved.
Court day.
I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting a tie I hadn't worn since my father's funeral. I didn't wear it for Emily. I wore it for Noah, to show him that some things, like dignity, are worth holding on to, even when everything else falls apart. He wasn't with me, of course. I didn't want him anywhere near this mess. He was at my sister's place, probably playing Xbox. Hopefully not thinking too much about what his parents were about to throw in front of a judge. My lawyer met me at the courthouse.
Calm.
Steady. The kind of man who doesn't blink, even when everything's burning. She'll probably play the victim, he said.
Tears.
Regret. All of it. Let her. We stick to the truth. Let the paperwork speak. Emily arrived 10 minutes later. White blouse, neat hair, minimal makeup, like she was attending church, not a custody battle. Still playing the role of the broken, discarded wife. Jason wasn't with her. Not anymore. I figured their crash and burn happened quietly, maybe after his little affair got exposed. Good. Let her feel what betrayal tastes like on the other end. The hearing started calmly. Introductions.
Backgrounds.
Then her lawyer stood up and told a story I didn't even recognize. Mrs. Taylor has endured emotional neglect for years, he said. She tried to save the marriage, but was ignored. Yes, she made a mistake, but only after Mr. Taylor shut her out completely. Now she simply wants to rebuild her bond with her son, who's been unfairly kept from her. Unfairly kept. My lawyer stood with the confidence of a man holding every receipt, and he was. Every message. Every hotel booking. Every missed visit. Every tearful video call where Noah asked why she didn't show up. He laid it all out, dates, times, screenshots, her own handwriting. The judge read through it in silence. When he looked up at me, there wasn't sympathy in his eyes. There was understanding. Then Emily took the stand, and the show began.
Tears.
A shaking voice. That same act she'd always used to dodge responsibility. I just want my family back, she whispered, her voice breaking in all the right places. I never meant to hurt anyone. Jason, it wasn't what it looked like. I was lost. I was empty. And Mark didn't see me anymore.
Then she looked at me.
Like I was supposed to nod. Supposed to forgive. Supposed to say it's okay. I didn't move. When it was my turn, I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just told the truth. I loved her. I gave her everything. She didn't just walk away. She detonated our family. She brought another man and his children into our home. She introduced them to my son like we were replaceable. And when it all fell apart, She tried to crawl back, playing the victim. I paused in court, then added quietly, "But this isn't about me. This is about Noah. And all he wants is peace." The silence that followed was louder than any fight we ever had. The judge made the ruling 3 days later. Primary custody granted to me. Visitation every other weekend, supervised, until a child therapist confirms Noah's emotional readiness. Any violation would lead to immediate suspension of her rights. When she heard the decision, she didn't cry. She fumed, her jaw clenched, her eyes darting from the judge to me, like this was all some kind of setup, like justice had cheated on her too. Outside the courthouse, she caught up to me in the parking lot. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "You humiliated me in there." "No," I said calmly. "You did that to yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She leaned in, voice suddenly sweet again, like old venom in a new bottle. "You'll regret this. He's still my son." I didn't flinch. "You had a son. You lost him the moment you chose a stranger over him."
She didn't reply.
She just turned around and walked away. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something I hadn't in months. Freedom. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the damage. But it was a first step. I picked up Noah from my sister's that evening. We drove home in silence for a while. Then he asked, "Did we win?" I smiled. We didn't lose. And for now, that was enough. The weeks that followed felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. Just real. No more fake apologies. No more late-night texts like knives wrapped in mascara-streaked guilt. No more sudden appearances in our driveway. She faded, slowly but surely, from our lives. And in her absence, something unexpected began to grow.
Peace.
Noah smiled more, ate better, slept deeper. The dark circles under his young eyes faded. The kid who used to flinch at the doorbell was now humming while brushing his teeth. That was the victory. Not the custody order. Not the silence in court. This. Still, she tried to call. Once.
Twice.
3 times. Voicemails that swung between pitiful and poisonous. "I miss him, Mark. You don't have to be so cruel. You've poisoned him against me. You're disgusting. Maybe we can talk. Start over." I blocked her. Let her scream into the void, where she belonged. One night, maybe 2 months after the hearing, Noah walked into the living room holding an old photo album. The thick, leather-bound one Emily had insisted we make when he was born. I hadn't opened it since before everything shattered. He sat beside me and turned the pages. "Do you think she ever looks at these?" he asked. I paused before answering. "I think she does. And I think she realizes what she lost." He nodded slowly, then pointed at a photo, me holding him at the hospital. My eyes red but smiling. Emily beside me, glowing like her world had just begun. "She used to be good," he whispered. "People change," I said. "Sometimes for the better. Sometimes into someone you don't recognize." He looked at me. "I'm glad you didn't change." I smiled and ruffled his hair. "I did," I said. "I just didn't break." That weekend, I took him hiking. Just the two of us. No phones. No distractions. Just the crunch of boots on dirt and wind weaving through trees. He asked about the future, college, driving, maybe getting a dog. We planned it all. We didn't mention her once. And in that silence, I found something I didn't think I'd ever find again. Closure. Not the kind that comes with apologies, but the kind that comes with a quiet morning, a breakfast together, a home without tension, a kid who finally feels safe. She thought bringing Jason and his sons into our lives would destroy us. She thought I'd fall apart. But instead, she gave me something she never meant to.
Clarity.
A clean slate. And a chance to show my son what real love looks like.
Steady. Loyal.
Unshakable. So if you're reading this, and you're sitting in the rubble like I once was, wondering how everything turned to ash, listen closely. You're not broken. You're becoming. Let her leave. Let the lies collapse. And when she comes crawling back, regret tangled in her hair, smile. Because by then, you'll know she lost the best thing that ever happened to her. And you'll finally be free.